Taiho Park opened his eyes and saw nothing but darkness. His head hurt badly. His mouth was dry. He tried to move his arms, but they felt heavy like stones. Slowly, his eyes adjusted to the dim light around him. He was lying on cold metal. The air smelled strange, like chemicals and something else he could not name. He heard breathing nearby. Not just one person. Many people. Taiho forced himself to sit up. His military training kicked in immediately. Observe. Assess. Survive. He looked around and counted, at least, 50 bodies lying on the floor. Some were moving. Some were not. A woman next to him groaned and opened her eyes. She had short black hair and wore a white coat that was now dirty and torn. "Where are we?" she whispered. "I do not know," Taiho said. "What is your name?" Yuna Shin. I am a doctor." Before Taiho could respond, a loud noise filled the room. The ceiling above them split open. Bright light poured in, blinding everyone. Taiho shielded his eyes with his hand. When he could see again, he wished he could not. Standing above them were creatures unlike anything from Earth. They were tall, at least 3 meters high. Their skin was covered in dark green scales. Their eyes were yellow with black slits, like a snake. They had long claws on their hands and rows of sharp teeth in their mouths. One of them spoke. The words were strange, but somehow Taiho understood them. Later, he would learn that the creatures had put translators in their heads while they slept. "Welcome, runners," the creature said. Its voice was deep and cold. "You have been chosen for the greatest honor. You will be hunted by the noble houses of the Veltari Empire." A man near Taiho stood up angrily. "You cannot do this. We have rights." The creature moved faster than Taiho's eyes could follow. One moment the man was standing. The next moment, he was on the ground. Dead. His neck was broken. "You have no rights," the Veltari said calmly. "You are prey." Nothing more. The floor beneath them opened and they fell. Taiho landed hard on soft ground. Dirt and leaves. He looked up and saw a green sky through thick jungle trees. The air was hot and wet. Strange birds called in the distant dot around him. The other humans were getting up slowly. Some were crying. Some were screaming. Some just sat there, unable to move. Yuna crawled over to him. "What do we do?" Taiho looked at the jungle around them. He looked at the scared people. He looked at his own hands, empty of weapons. "We survive," he said. "The first 3 days were the worst." The Voltari hunters came in small groups, moving through the jungle like ghosts. They carried weapons that shot beams of light. One hit would kill a human instantly. Taiho watched from hiding as hunters chased down a young man. The man ran fast, but the Voltari was faster. When the hunter caught him, it did not kill him quickly. It played with him first, like a cat with a mouse. By the end of the first week, 83 humans were dead. Taiho knew because he counted the screams, but something strange was happening. The survivors were not just running anymore. They were watching. They were learning. Taiho met Minho Beak on the 4th day. Minho was an engineer. He was building a map of the jungle in his head, marking safe paths and dangerous areas. "The hunters always come from the east in the morning," Minho said. "They rest during the hottest part of the day. They hunt again at night, but they do not see well in complete darkness." Taiho nodded. This was useful information. On the 6th day, they found Hanacho. She was sitting alone by a stream, bending a long piece of wood into a curve. "What are you making?" Taiho asked. "A bow," Hana said. Her eyes were hard. "I was an archer. Olympic team. These monsters think we cannot fight back. They are wrong." The group grew slowly. Wu Jinkang joined them, a chemistry teacher who had already identified 3 plants that could be used as medicine and 2 that were deadly poison. Jun-Ho Lee, a Navy diver who could hold his breath for 4 minutes and move through water without making a sound. They found caves in the hills that blocked the sea, Veltari heat sensors. They built a hidden camp. They gathered food and water. They made weapons from wood and stone and bone dot. Every day, they watched the hunters. They learned their patterns. They memorized their weaknesses. The Veltari had hunted other species for 300 years. They had killed millions. No prey had ever fought back successfully. Why would the soft, weak humans be any different? On the 30th night, Taiho gathered the survivors in the cave. There were 117 people left. Men and women. Young and old. All of them had seen friends die. All of them had run and hidden and been afraid. The Veltari think we are animals, Taiho said. They think we are weak because we do not have claws or fangs. But they do not understand what humans really are. He looked at each face in the firelight. We are the species that hunted mammoths with pointed sticks. We tamed wolves and made them our partners. We spread across our entire planet and conquered every environment. We did not survive because we were the strongest or the fastest. We survived because we learned. We adapted. We worked together. Hana stood up, holding her finished bow. So what do we do now? Taiho smiled. It was not a nice smile. Now, he said, we teach these lizards what it means to hunt a human. In the darkness of the alien jungle, 117 humans began to plan. They did not know it yet, but they were about to change the history of the galaxy. The hunters were about to become the hunted. The second month on Keldra 7 changed everything. Taiho divided the survivors into groups. Each group had a job. Some gathered food. Some collected water. Some watched the hunters and reported their movements. And some trained for war. Hannah taught archery to anyone who wanted to learn. Her bows were simple, made from bent wood and plant fibers. They were not as powerful as the Veltari weapons, but they were silent. A hunter could die before it even knew it was in danger. Woojin spent his days testing plants. He crushed leaves. He boiled roots. He mixed different things together and watched what happened. On the 23rd day of the second month, he called Taiho to his corner of the cave. Look at this, Woojin said. He held up a small bowl filled with white paste. This comes from the blue flowers near the river. When it touches Veltari skin, nothing happens. But when it gets in their eyes, he did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Minho had mapped the entire hunting ground by now. He knew every trail, every clearing, every water source. More importantly, he knew where the Veltari liked to hunt. They always use the same paths, Minho explained to the group. They think they are the most dangerous things in this jungle. They do not bother hiding. That is their weakness, Taiho said. They are too confident. Yuna had turned a small cave into a hospital. She had no real medicine, but she had knowledge and determination. She set broken bones with sticks. She cleaned wounds with boiled water. She saved lives that should have been lost. One night, she came to Taiho with worry on her face. We cannot just hide forever, she said. People are getting sick. We need better food, better shelter. We need to do something. Taiho nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. The plan was simple. Simple plans were best. A young Veltari noble named Lord Dren had been hunting alone for the past week. He was young and proud. He wanted to prove himself by killing humans without help from others. The humans had watched him carefully. They knew his favorite hunting spots. They knew he always stopped to drink at a certain stream in the afternoon. On day 47, they were ready. Junho and 2 other men dug a pit near the stream. It was deep but narrow. They covered it with thin branches and leaves. At the bottom, they placed sharpened sticks pointing upward. Then they hid in the trees and waited. Lord Dren arrived just after midday. He moved through the jungle like he owned it. Because in his mind, he did. He had killed 17 humans already. He wore their teeth on a necklace around his neck. He walked toward the stream. He did not look down. Why would he? Nothing in this jungle could hurt him. His foot broke through the covering. He fell. The pit was not deep enough to kill him. The Veltari was strong. He grabbed the edge and started to pull himself up. His yellow eyes burned with anger. "You will die for this," he roared. 3 arrows flew from the trees. Hannah had trained her students well. All 3 hit his neck, where the scales were thinnest. Lord Dren made a strange gurgling sound. Then he fell back into the pit and did not move again. For a long moment, nobody spoke. They had done it. They had actually killed one of the hunters. Junho climbed down into the pit. He took Lord Dren's weapon, a beam rifle that glowed with blue light. He took the hunter's armor, made from some kind of metal that was lighter than plastic, but stronger than steel. He took the communication device from the hunter's belt. When he climbed out, his hands were shaking, but his eyes were clear. "One down," he said. That night, the humans celebrated quietly in their cave. They could not make much noise. Other hunters might hear, but they smiled. They laughed softly. For the first time since arriving on this terrible moon, they felt hope. Taeho did not celebrate. He was thinking about what would happen next. "They will send more hunters," he told Yuna. "Stronger ones. More careful ones. This was just the beginning." "I know," Yuna said. "But look at them." She pointed at the people around the fire. They were different now. They stood straighter. Their eyes were brighter. They were no longer just survivors. They were fighters. "We needed this," she said. "We needed to know we could win." 3 days later, a Veltari hunting party entered the jungle. There were 10 of them, all experienced hunters. They were looking for Lord Dren. They found him in the pit, rotting in the heat. They found the tracks the humans had left. They followed those tracks deep into the jungle, moving fast, eager for revenge. The first hunter died when he stepped on a hidden spike. The poison Wujin had put on it stopped his heart in seconds. The second hunter died when an arrow came from nowhere and went through his eye. The third hunter died when a rope caught his leg and pulled him up into the trees. Humans were waiting there with stone knives. The remaining hunters tried to run. They were the most dangerous predators in 40 star systems. But in that moment, in that dark jungle, they felt something they had never felt before. Fear. Only 3 of them made it out alive. When they returned to their ship, they sent a message to the Veltari High Council. The message was short but shocking. "The humans are fighting back. Send help." In 300 years of hunting, no species had ever sent the Veltari running. No prey had ever turned predator. Until now. In the cave, Taeho received reports from his scouts. He learned that the Veltari were confused. He learned that more ships were coming. He learned that the Empire was taking this seriously. Good, he thought. Let them come. He looked at Hana, who was already making more arrows. He looked at Wajin, who was preparing more poison. He looked at all the humans who had been brought here to die, but had chosen to fight instead. They wanted a hunt, Taeho said quietly. We will give them one. The Moon Keldra 7 had been a killing ground for centuries. Now it was about to become a graveyard for the hunters themselves, and this was only the beginning. The Veltari High Council met in their great hall on Voltara Prime. The room was filled with trophies from 300 years of hunting. Skulls of 1,000 species lined the walls. But the mood was not proud. It was angry. This is impossible, Lord Commander Varric hissed. His scales were dark red, a sign of pure noble blood. They are just humans. Soft little creatures from a small wet planet. How can they be killing our hunters? They are organizing, said General Thax, who led the military forces. They are using our own hunting grounds against us. They set traps. They attack from hiding. They never fight in the open. Cowards, another lord spat. Effective cowards, Thax replied. We have lost 43 hunters in 2 months. This has never happened before. Lord Commander Vurek slammed his clawed fist on the table. Then we end this. Send the Blood Claws. The room went silent. The Blood Claws were the elite hunters of the Voltari Empire. They had never failed a hunt. They had never lost a member. They were legends. All of them? General Thax asked. All of them. 50 of our best warriors. I want every human on Keldra 7 dead. No survivors. No mercy. On Keldra 7, Taiho received the news from a captured Veltari communication device. Sujin Yun, a software engineer who had spent weeks studying the alien technology, had finally cracked their language codes. 50 blood claws, Sujin said, her face pale. They arrive in 3 days. The cave was quiet. Everyone knew what the blood claws were. The surviving humans had heard stories from other prisoners before they died. The blood claws were monsters among monsters. We should run, someone said. Hide deeper in the jungle. There is nowhere to hide, Minho said. I have mapped this entire moon. They will find us eventually. Taiho stood up. Then we do not hide. Everyone looked at him. We cannot beat 50 blood claws in straight combat, Taiho continued. But we do not need to. We just need to take away their advantages. He turned to Sujin. You said you can access their communications. Yes, basic messages, at least. Can you shut them down? Cut them off from their fleet? Sujin thought about it. Maybe, if I can get to their orbital supply station. That is where the main communication array is. Taiho looked at Junho. Can you get her there? Junho smiled slowly. The station is above the Northern Ocean. It has cooling pipes that go down into the water. I found them weeks ago. I was waiting for a good reason to use them. The plan came together quickly. It was crazy. It was dangerous. It would probably get them all killed, but it was their only chance. When the blood claws landed on Keldra 7, they spread out in a perfect formation. They moved through the jungle like shadows, using hunting techniques perfected over centuries. They checked every trap, avoided every ambush. They were not foolish young nobles. They were professionals. For 2 days, they searched. They found the human caves. They found the remains of weapons and tools. But they did not find any humans. They are running, one blood claw said. No, the commander replied. His name was Vorn, and he had killed more prey than any living Voltari. They are planning something. I can feel it. He was right. While the blood claws searched the jungle, Junho led a small team through the ocean. They swam for 6 hours in the dark water, breathing through tubes made from hollow plants. They reached the cooling pipes of the orbital station just before dawn. Sujin's fingers were numb from cold, but she worked fast. She climbed through the maintenance tunnels until she reached the communication center. 2 Veltari guards stood there, bored and lazy. They never expected an attack from inside their own station. Junho killed them silently. His knife moved twice, and both guards fell. Sujin connected her captured device to the main array. She typed commands she had been practicing for weeks. One by one, the communication channels went dark. Done, she whispered. They are alone now. On the surface, Commander Vorn tried to contact his fleet. Nothing. He tried to reach other blood claws. Static. He tried to call for extraction. Silence. For the first time in his life. Commander Vorn felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He recognized it from his prey. It was fear. "Something is wrong," he said to his hunters. "Form up." We returned to the landing zone. They never made it. The humans attacked from everywhere at once. Arrows flew from the trees. Poison darts struck from the bushes. Ropes pulled hunters into prepared traps. The jungle that the Bloodclaws had walked through so confidently was now a death trap. Vorn fought back with all his skill. He killed 7 humans before an arrow found his knee. He killed 3 more before a net dropped on him from above. He was still struggling when Tai-Ho walked out of the shadows. "You," Vorn growled. "You are their leader." "Yes," Tai-Ho said. "Kill me. Get it over with." Tai-Ho shook his head. "No, you are going to live. You are going to deliver a message." He nodded to Wujin, who stepped forward with a small camera taken from the Voltari station. "Hello," Tai-Ho said to the camera. Behind him, the captured commander of the Bloodclaws was chained and bleeding. "My name is Tai-Ho Park. I speak for the humans of Keldra 7. He paused and looked directly into the lens. "You call us prey. You call us runners. You brought us here to die for your entertainment. But you made a mistake. You forgot what humans are. We are not sheep. We are not deer. We are wolves. And wolves do not run forever." He held up the helmet of a dead Bloodclaw. "Your greatest hunters came for us. They failed. Send more if you want. We will kill them too. Or you can accept the truth." He stepped closer to the camera. "We are not prey. We are predators. And now we are hunting you." The message was broadcast to every ship in the Voltari fleet. It spread across the Empire within hours. It was shared by 100 other species who had lost friends and family to the hunts. On 100 worlds, slaves began to whisper. Hope began to spread. And on Keldra 7, 103 surviving humans looked up at the stars. They had won a battle, but the war was just beginning. Tai-Ho looked at his people, bloody and tired but unbroken. "Rest tonight," he said. "Tomorrow, we start planning how to take their ships." No one laughed. No one said it was impossible. They had stopped believing in impossible. The message from Keldra 7 traveled across the galaxy like fire. On 100 worlds, other species watched the video of Tai-Ho Park standing over the captured Bloodclaw commander. They saw humans small and soft and weak, defeating the greatest hunters in the Empire. They saw the impossible become possible, and they began to help. The first gift came from the Kelori, a peaceful race that had lost millions to Voltari hunts. A small ship landed on Keldra 7 at night. Inside were weapons, medicine, food, and a message. "We cannot fight, but we can give you the tools to fight for us." More gifts followed. Ships from the Maru Collective brought armor and communication devices. Traders from the Outer Rim brought fuel and spare parts. Even the cold, logical Synthex, a race of machine beings, sent data about Voltari ship weaknesses. The galaxy was tired of the hunters, and now they had champions. Within 6 months, the small camp in the caves had become a base. Minho led teams of engineers in studying captured Voltari ships. They learned how the engines worked. They found the flaws in the designs. They made them better. "Their ships are fast but fragile," Minho explained to Tai-Ho. "They never expected anyone to shoot back. The hull armor is thin. One good hit in the right place will destroy the whole ship." Wujin had moved beyond poisons. With materials from their new allies, he built chemical weapons that affected only Voltari biology. The gas was harmless to humans, but deadly to the scaled hunters. "I do not like making weapons," Wujin said quietly, "but I like watching our people die even less." The force grew. Other humans from other hunting worlds heard the broadcasts and rose up. The Voltari had been abducting humans for 50 years. They had thousands of captives spread across their empire. Now those captives were fighting back. Yoonji Han was a marine biologist from Bizon. The Voltari had taken her to the water world of Celis 3. where they hunted humans in the vast oceans. For 2 years, she had survived by swimming faster and diving deeper than any hunter expected. When she heard Taiho's message, she gathered the other survivors. There were only 38 left. But they were angry, and they had a plan. The Voltari fleet orbiting Celis 3 had 12 ships. Every ship needed clean water for cooling. Every ship got that water from the planet below. Yunji led her people to the water intake stations. They did not destroy them. That would have been too obvious. Instead, they put Wujin's gas into the water supply. 3 days later, 11 of the 12 ships went silent. The crews were dead. The 12th ship survived only because its captain was paranoid and used filtered water. 38. Humans captured 11 warships without firing a single shot. On the ice moon of Kryn, another uprising was happening. Daewon Ri had been a competitive shooter back on Earth. He had won medals in the Olympics. On Kryn, he used those skills to become a legend. The Voltari hunted humans across the frozen wasteland, tracking them through the snow. But Daewon had learned that the cold affected Voltari eyes. In temperatures below freezing, they could not see as well. Their heat sensors became confused. He taught the other humans to move at night, when the temperature dropped lowest. He taught them to cover their heat signatures with ice and snow. He taught them to shoot from distances the Voltari thought were impossible. In one night, Daewon killed 37 hunters. He did it alone, moving from position to position, one shot at a time. By morning, the Voltari had abandoned Kryn completely. Stories like these spread across the empire. The humans were not just surviving anymore. They were winning. 1 year after the first kill on Keldra 7, Taiho commanded a fleet of over 2,000 ships. Some were captured. Some were gifts from allied species. Some were built from parts found in Voltari wreckage. 800 human warriors served under him. They came from every hunting world. They had all lost friends. They had all been afraid. And they had all chosen to fight. The Voltari High Council sent diplomats to negotiate. They offered to release all human prisoners. They offered to leave Earth alone forever. They offered money and technology and planets. Taiho met them in the command room of his flagship, a captured Voltari dreadnought that the humans had renamed Never Again. "You want peace," Taiho said. It was not a question. "We want to end this war," the lead diplomat said. He was an old Voltari, his scales faded with age. "Too many have died, on both sides." "On both sides," Taiho repeated. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, stars filled the darkness. "Do you know how many humans your people have killed?" "Not in this war." In 300 years of hunting, the diplomat was silent. "I do not know the exact number either," Taiho continued. "But I know it is millions, families, children, people who never did anything to you except exist." He turned back to face the diplomat. "You came to our planet. You took our people. You hunted us for sport. And now that we fight back, now that your own people are dying, you want peace." The diplomat shifted nervously. "Surely you see that more war benefits no one. We can coexist." "We can no," Taiho said. "We cannot." The diplomat's eyes widened. "Then what do you want?" Taiho walked back to his chair and sat down. When he spoke, his voice was calm and cold. "You taught us to hunt. For a year you chased us through jungles and oceans and ice. You taught us fear. You taught us to kill. You made us into the weapons that are now pointed at you." He leaned forward. "You wanted hunters. You got them. And now you will learn what it means to be hunted. Go back to your council. Tell them we are coming. Tell them there will be no negotiation. Tell them the prey has become the predator." He nodded to his guards. "And tell them to run. Because we did. And it did not save us either." The diplomat was escorted out. His ship left quickly, jumping to hyperspace almost before it cleared the fleet. Taiho watched it go. Then he turned to his officers. Junho, now commanding the Marine Forces. Hana, leading the Special Operations Teams. Minho, Chief Engineer. Yuna, Head of Medical. Woojin, Director of Weapons Research. Sujin, Intelligence Commander. "It is time," Taiho said. "Set course for Voltara Prime." The human fleet turned as one. 2,000 ships, crewed by survivors who had become soldiers. Behind them, 100 allied species watched and waited. The great hunt was ending. The final hunt was about to begin. Voltara Prime was beautiful. Even Taiho had to admit that as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace above the planet. The world was covered in red forests and blue oceans. Great cities sparkled on every continent. It was the heart of an empire that had ruled 40 star systems for 1,000 years. Today, that empire would fall. The Voltari defense fleet was already waiting. 3,000 warships hung in orbit, their weapons hot and ready. It was the largest military force the Empire had ever gathered. On the bridge of the Never Again, Taiho studied the enemy formation. The Voltari ships were larger and more heavily armed than his. In a straight fight, his fleet would lose. But Taiho had learned a long time ago that straight fights were for fools. "Admiral Park," Sujin called from her station. "I am detecting communications between their ships. They are confident. They think this will be easy." "Good," Taiho said. "Let them think that." "Are our special teams in position?" "Yes. Yunji's ships are hiding behind the third moon. Dewan's strike force is ready. Junho's Marines are suited up." Taiho nodded and opened a channel to his entire fleet. "All ships. This is Admiral Park. Today, we finish what started on Keldra 7. Some of you were there with me when we made our first kill. Some of you joined us later, from Celis 3 or Kryn or a dozen other hunting grounds. All of you have lost something to these creatures. Friends, family, parts of yourselves you will never get back." He paused. On 2,000 ships, humans listened in silence. The Voltari think they are the apex predators of this galaxy. They think they are at the top of the food chain because they have big teeth and sharp claws. But they forgot something. They forgot that on our little planet, a species with no claws and no fangs became the most dangerous thing alive. They forgot that we conquered our world not with strength, but with cunning, with patience, with the ability to work together and never, ever give up. He stood up. "Today we remind them. Today we show every species in this galaxy what happens when you hunt humans. Today we end the hunts forever. All ships, attack." The human fleet surged forward, but they did not charge directly at the Voltari line. Instead, they spread out, moving in patterns that seemed random but were carefully planned. The Voltari opened fire. Their beams cut through space, destroying several human ships. But the humans were not trying to win a shooting match. They were hurting. "The enemy fleet is pursuing," Sujin reported. "They are breaking formation." "Good," Taiho said. "Signal Yunji." From behind the third moon, Yunji's hidden squadron emerged. 50 ships, loaded not with weapons, but with containers of Woojin's gas. They raced toward the planet's atmosphere. The Voltari commander saw the danger and tried to send ships to intercept. But Taiho's fleet was in the way, forcing them to fight instead of chase. Yunji's ships reached the upper atmosphere and released their cargo. The gas spread quickly, carried by the winds across the entire planet. It was not enough to kill. That would have been too kind. It was enough to weaken, to slow, to cloud the mind. On the surface of Voltara Prime, millions of Voltari suddenly felt dizzy. Their vision blurred. Their reactions slowed. The planetary defense systems crewed by affected soldiers began to malfunction and shut down. "Phase 2, Taiho ordered. "Day 1, go." Dewan's strike force dropped from above like falling stars. 100 small, fast ships aimed directly at the heart of the Veltari fleet. They carried no crews. They were controlled remotely, and they were packed with explosives. The Veltari tried to shoot them down, but there were too many, moving too fast. 23 strike ships got through. 23 explosions ripped through the Veltari command ships, including the flagship carrying their Admiral Dot. Suddenly, the Veltari fleet had no leader. Ships began to panic, firing at random, sometimes hitting each other. The organized defense became chaos. Phase 3, Taiho said quietly. Junho, the planet is yours. Junho's marine transports dove through the battle, using the confusion as cover. They landed in the capital city, where the Great Hall of Trophies stood. The hall where the skulls of 1,000,000 hunted beings decorated the walls. The Volturi guards fought hard, but the gas had made them slow. Junho's marines moved through them like water through sand. Room by room, level by level, they took the hall. When Junho kicked open the doors to the throne room, he found the Veltari High Council waiting. They were old and weak, barely able to stand. Their greatest warriors were dead in space. Their planet was falling. What do you want? Lord Commander Varric asked. His voice shook. We want what you took from us, Junho replied. Everything. The battle lasted 6 hours in total. When it ended, the Veltari Empire was no more. Their fleet was destroyed or surrendered. Their council was captured. Their hunting worlds were declared free territory, protected by the New Human Alliance and 100 species who had waited generations for this day. Taiho landed on Veltara Prime as the sun was setting. The red forests glowed like fire in the fading light. He walked through the empty streets to the Great Hall of Trophies. The skulls were gone. His people had removed them, treating each one with respect. They would be returned to their home worlds, given proper burials, remembered as they deserved. But the walls were still there. And they were empty now, waiting. Taiho reached into his bag and pulled out a flag. It was not pretty. It was made from pieces of torn clothing, stitched together by hand. These were the clothes they had been wearing when they first fell into the jungles of Keldra 7. The clothes they had been wearing when they were nothing but prey. He hung the flag on the wall where the most prized trophy had once been displayed. Yuna joined him, along with Hana, Minho, Woojin, Junho, and Sujin, the original survivors from those first terrible weeks. They stood together, looking at the flag. Is it over? Yuna asked quietly. Taiho shook his head. This part is over. But there's still work to do. Other species need help. Other empires need to learn this lesson. The galaxy is not safe yet. Then we keep going, Hana said. Yes, Taiho agreed. We keep going. He turned to his friends, his family, his fellow survivors. They wanted to hunt us because they thought we were weak. They looked at our soft skin and our small teeth and saw easy prey. But they did not understand what humans are. We are the species that survived ice ages with nothing but fire and furs. We are the species that crossed oceans in wooden boats. We are the species that looked at wolves and bears and tigers and said, "This planet belongs to us." He looked back at the flag. We are humans. And we do not stay prey for long. Outside, the last Veltari sun was setting on the last day of their empire. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new enemies, new hunts. But tonight, for the first time in 300 years, the galaxy was free. And humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as prey. As predators, the greatest predators the galaxy had ever known.